Chapter 1. The Unseen Thread. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead and the subtle rattle of a vending machine were the only sounds that accompanied Connor in the late-night break room. His shift at the distribution center had dragged on longer than usual. Another double, another promise broken to be home by dinner. He rubbed his eyes and checked the time on his watch. 11:43 p.m. By the time he stepped through the front door of their modest suburban home, everything was quiet. The living room was dark except for the soft glow of a muted TV playing reruns. A blanket had been tossed over the couch, and a half-empty wine glass sat on the coffee table. Connor set his work bag down gently and exhaled. "Grace," he called softly, not wanting to wake her as she'd already gone to bed. In the kitchen, her voice answered, light but tired. He walked in and found her standing by the sink, rinsing out a mug. Her long brown hair was pulled up into a messy bun, and she wore one of his old sweatshirts, something that always used to stir warmth in him. Lately, though, even that felt distant. "Hey," she said, offering a brief smile. "I waited for you, but I got sleepy." "It's okay." "Another long one," Connor replied, stepping forward to kiss her cheek. She turned slightly, so it landed more on the corner of her jaw than her lips. "You always work so hard," she said, a hint of guilt, or was it avoidance, in her voice. "Trying to keep the lights on." He gave a tired chuckle, but her eyes darted away too quickly, and the silence between them lingered just a second too long. They sat together for a few minutes, eating leftover lasagna she reheated for him. Grace asked about his day, and he told her about a forklift nearly tipping over in the warehouse. She laughed, but it felt rehearsed. Forced. "How was yours?" he asked. "Oh, just errands. Talked to Mom and Violet for a while. Nothing too exciting." Her phone buzzed from the kitchen counter. She didn't flinch. Connor's eyes flicked toward it instinctively. The screen lit up with a message preview. All he caught was the name of the group chat. Without Connor. The word sat in his mind like a lead weight. He blinked, his stomach turning. Maybe it was some dumb group name. Friends joking. Inside humor. Grace noticed his glance and walked over to pick up the phone. "I'm gonna head to bed," she said quickly, clutching the phone and giving him a quick kiss on the head. "Don't stay up too late, okay?" "I won't." His voice was calm, even, but something crawled up his spine. She disappeared down the hallway. He waited a full minute, listening for the bedroom door to close. When it did, he stood slowly and walked to the kitchen. And there it was. Her phone plugged into the wall charger, the screen facing up. Still unlocked. Still showing the chat. Without Connor. He hesitated. His reflection stared back at him from the darkened kitchen window. He wasn't the jealous type. He'd always trusted Grace, his high school sweetheart, the mother of their child. But something about this wasn't normal. One tap opened the group chat. "Mother-in-law, you need to be extra careful now. It's early days. Make sure Connor doesn't notice anything off. Violet, sister-in-law, you're a saint for doing this for us. Honestly, you're saving our marriage. Grace, I just keep telling him I'm tired from work. He doesn't ask questions. He never does." Connor's hands trembled. He scrolled further. "Mother-in-law, God bless you for going through with the surrogacy. You know how important this is for Violet and Jasper." "Grace, I know. Last night went well. We followed the schedule. Connor was on shift, so we had the house to ourselves. It felt weird at first, but Jasper made it comfortable. Violet, I cried when I saw the test result today. I still can't believe it. This is everything." Connor could feel his pulse in his throat. His knees nearly buckled. "Grace, don't worry, he won't find out. Connor is just Connor. He pays the bills and works nonstop. He doesn't have time to notice." The room swirled. His mouth went dry as he reread the messages. Jasper, his brother-in-law, his wife, in his home, celebrating a pregnancy, conceived while he was working. He backed away from the counter like the phone was toxic, but his eyes, wide with horror, kept returning to the screen. Without Connor wasn't just a clever name. It was literal. He leaned against the wall, chest heaving, mind spinning. This wasn't just cheating. This was betrayal on a level he couldn't comprehend. Grace, the woman he married, the woman he trusted with every piece of his soul. And they didn't even see him as a person, just a placeholder, a provider, a blind, dumb mule hauling the weight of their secrets. He wanted to scream. He wanted to kick a hole in the wall. But instead, he breathed. Slowly, quietly, he walked back to the couch, sat down, and stared at the muted television. Some sitcom couple was arguing on screen. Laugh track playing. He felt nothing. Minutes passed. When he finally stood up, he moved with purpose. He went into the bedroom, where Grace was already asleep, her breathing steady. He stared at her silently. She looked peaceful, innocent. His throat tightened. He swallowed the storm inside him. Turning away, he went to the spare room and pulled out a duffel bag. Packed it with clothes, documents, his laptop. Then he reached for the fireproof lockbox under the bed and grabbed the folder marked legal. Back in the kitchen, he opened the group chat once more and took screenshots. Every message, every smug little detail. He emailed them to himself, encrypted, then backed them up to a cloud folder. Finally, he grabbed a pen and notepad. Grace, read your messages. Don't contact me. That was all he wrote. He folded the note and placed it on her nightstand. Then, with quiet steps and a shattered heart, Connor opened the front door and walked into the night. Not with rage, not with tears, just silence, and something colder, something sharp, something that was no longer love. Chapter 2. The Celebration of Deceit. The screen glowed in the dark kitchen, casting a cold, bluish hue over Connor's expressionless face. His eyes stayed fixed on the thread of messages, not blinking, not breathing, not believing. His mind grasped at logic, but none could explain this. His wife, his home, his brother-in-law, their secret. He kept scrolling. Violet, Jasper and I couldn't stop crying. You're really doing this for us. You're incredible, Grace. Grace, I'm just glad the implantation worked. I was nervous, but yesterday went perfectly. Mother-in-law, we're all so proud of you. Jasper says you were amazing. This is a miracle. Grace, I just told Connor I had a migraine and stayed home from work. He left for the night shift around 6. Jasper came over an hour later. We even had dinner after. Connor's hand trembled as he gripped the phone tighter. He remembered that night. He had kissed Grace on the forehead, told her not to strain herself, and even promised to pick up her favorite bagels the next morning. She smiled at him in the hallway, lying through her teeth, while the man who shared her bed that night waited in the wings. His temples throbbed. He placed the phone down with careful restraint, like it might explode. Suddenly, the little things she'd said over the past few months came back, like needles pricking old wounds. I'm just so tired lately. It's probably hormonal. I've been feeling bloated. I think I'm stressed. She had pushed away his hands during intimate moments, claiming headaches, cramps, or a need for space. It wasn't just physical distance, either. Grace had started criticizing him more, subtle jabs about his long hours, his worn-out clothes, his predictable routine. You never surprise me anymore, Connor. She didn't need surprises. She had another man. And still she kissed him goodnight. Still she let him cook, clean, run errands, and cover the bills. He had put in overtime to cover a family budget that, unbeknownst to him, funded a betrayal. He stood up slowly, his muscles tight with the kind of tension that made men snap. He could feel his heart thumping against his ribs like it wanted out. He walked to the hallway, quiet as a shadow, and paused at the bedroom door. It was slightly ajar. Inside, Grace lay under the covers, sleeping on her side, one arm curled under her pillow. She looked peaceful, content even, like she hadn't dismantled a man's entire world from the inside out. Connor's knuckles turned white as he gripped the doorframe. The rage wasn't loud. It didn't scream. It sat still and burning deep beneath his ribs. He turned away, walked back to the kitchen, and opened his laptop. He spent the next 2 hours assembling a digital war chest. He backed up the entire chat to multiple encrypted drives, attaching the timestamps. He emailed copies to an address only he had access to. He combed through other message threads on Grace's phone, texts with Violet, with her mother, even a few between her and Jasper. Cryptic, flirtatious. One said, "Jasper, you're doing more than just carrying our child. You're keeping our love alive. Grace, he'll never understand. But you do. That's all that matters." Connor closed the screen, his mouth a hard line. Love. That's what they called it. He pulled out the folder from the lockbox under the guest bed. Inside were documents he never imagined needing. Old tax returns, marriage certificates, Grace's employment contract. He gathered everything into a neat pile. Next came the financials. He opened his banking app, moved the bulk of his checking account into a private savings account he'd never touched, under his name only. It was meant to be a college fund for their daughter, but now, no, he wouldn't think about that yet. He printed a copy of his employment history, gathered passwords, and then did something that nearly broke him. He opened their family photo folder. There they were, beaming smiles, birthday cakes, Christmas trees, baby's first steps. All eyes. He copied them to a backup and then deleted the folder from the share drive. He couldn't look at them anymore. As the first light of dawn began to bleed into the sky, he moved methodically. He packed only what he needed. 3 changes of clothes, his laptop, toiletries, and that folder. Nothing sentimental. Nothing emotional. He refused to carry her lies with him. He returned to the bedroom one last time. Grace stirred but didn't wake. Her lips were slightly parted, her breathing slow and shallow. He remembered how he used to watch her sleep after long nights together, feeling lucky, grateful, blessed. Now he only felt cold. He walked over to her nightstand and laid the note down. Read your messages. Don't contact me. He didn't sign it. What was the point? At the front door, he paused. His keys felt heavier than usual. He slid them into his pocket, looked around the living room, the photos on the wall, the couch where they'd cuddled during movies, the kitchen island where she'd once told him she was pregnant for the first time. Now it was just a shell. He didn't slam the door. He didn't leave in a rage. He left like a ghost. Silent. Steady. Outside, the air was cool, the sky pink with the start of a new day. He walked to his car, tossed the bag into the back seat, and sat in the driver's seat. His hands gripped the wheel for a long time before he started the engine. This wasn't just about a betrayal of flesh. It was a betrayal of the soul, of trust, of love, and Connor had no intention of forgiving it. He looked one last time at the house through the rearview mirror. Then he shifted into gear and pulled away, never glancing back. Not once. Chapter 3. The fallout begins. The sun pierced through the bedroom curtains in gentle streaks of light, slowly warming the linen sheets that once held the illusion of comfort. Grace blinked awake with a lazy groan, stretching her arm across the bed, only to find it cold. Empty. Her fingers reached instinctively toward Connor's usual side of the bed. The pillow was fluffed, undented. She sat up slowly, frowning. The smell of his cologne wasn't lingering like it usually did after his night shift. That was odd. Connor, she called out, brushing her hair behind her ears. No response. The house was eerily still. She pulled on her robe and padded barefoot into the hallway, half expecting to hear the familiar sound of the coffee maker brewing or the faint hum of Connor watching the morning news. But there was nothing, just silence. Her eyes landed on the kitchen counter. No travel mug, no breakfast plate. Her heartbeat picked up slightly as she turned the corner into the living room. Nothing. Then she noticed a note on her nightstand when she returned to the bedroom. It hadn't been there last night. She picked it up, heart thumping as she unfolded the page. Read your messages. Don't contact me. Her knees buckled as she sat hard on the edge of the bed, eyes darting back and forth between the note and her phone. A heavy panic settled in her stomach. No, she whispered, hands shaking as she unlocked her phone. Her heart dropped the instant she saw the group chat. Without Connor, 148 unread messages. Oh my God, she whispered. She scrolled frantically, every message, every sarcastic comment, every disgusting plan. Every moment she thought she was being clever, private, careful, it was all right there. Exposed. And the screenshots, the whole chat had been marked as read. He saw it all. Her mouth went dry. She opened her recent calls. No outgoing call to Connor. She opened his contact. Hit dial. Call failed. Blocked. What the hell is happening? She muttered, pacing the room now, her breathing shallow. She tried his work number. Voicemail. She texted him. Grace. Please, Connor, we need to talk. Grace. I can explain. Grace. It's not what you think. I swear. Silence. Then the group chat buzzed. Mother-in-law. Grace. What happened? He saw the messages? Violet. What the fuck did you do? Mother-in-law. You said he was working. You said it was safe. Grace. He's gone. He left a note. He saw everything. The typing bubbles came and went. Then another ping. Violet. Oh my God. Do you think he'll tell anyone? He could ruin us. Mother-in-law. You need to fix this. Now. Grace's fingers flew across the screen, trying to type, explain, apologize to who she didn't know anymore. Grace. I'll fix it. I'll talk to him. He loves me. He'll understand. He just needs time. But even as she wrote it, she didn't believe it. Her phone vibrated again. But this time it wasn't a message. It was an email alert. Subject. Formal notice of divorce filing from Hartwell and Grant Family Law Offices. She stared at it, mouth open. Then, another email landed. Subject. Motion for emergency paternity testing filed on behalf of Connor Hernandez. Her vision blurred. She opened the files attached, legal language, filings, court dates, formal demands. 2 years ago, they had a second child. Connor had never questioned it, never suspected. He had trusted her completely. Now he wanted proof. She burst into tears, sobs racking her body as the weight of reality hit her like a truck. Her carefully woven web was unraveling in real time, and there was no way to stop it. Another message. This one wasn't from Connor. It was from his attorney. 2. Grace Hernandez. Re-legal separation and civil motion for emotional damages. Mrs. Hernandez, this correspondence is to inform you that your husband, Mr. Connor Hernandez, has filed for immediate legal separation and is pursuing claims of intentional emotional harm, fraud, and breach of marital trust. Further communication should be directed through legal channels. Please be advised that contact with Mr. Hernandez outside of this process will be considered harassment under existing state law. Grace's sobs turned into dry, choking gasps. She called her mother. No answer. She called Violet. Straight to voicemail. Then came the phone call she wasn't prepared for. Bank of America. Mrs. Hernandez, a substantial transfer was made from your joint account this morning. For your protection, we've locked shared access pending further verification. Her world was imploding. Across the city, Connor sat silently in a small, rented studio apartment. It was bare, just a bed, a desk, and a coffee machine. The smell of new paint still clung to the walls. His laptop screen showed Grace's incoming texts, mirrored through a backup app. He watched the chaos unfold in real time. 256 missed calls. 71 unread texts. All from her. All unanswered. The last one made him stop for a brief moment. Grace, please, I'm at the hospital. I collapsed. They say it's stress-related. Please just answer me. He read it. He saw it. And he did nothing. He closed the app and stared at the ceiling, the white plaster above him blurring in his vision. His jaw clenched. He felt no satisfaction, no triumph, only exhaustion. In the corner of the room, a small file folder rested atop the desk, labeled neatly. Truth, evidence, freedom. Back at the hospital, Grace sat in a stark white room, for dripping slowly beside her, heart monitor beeping in steady rhythm. Her mother sat nearby, pale and visibly shaken. You didn't cover your tracks, her mother muttered angrily, her voice bitter and cold. He wasn't supposed to find out. Grace clutched her phone like a lifeline. I didn't think he'd look. He never looks at my phone. Well, he did. And now everything's destroyed. Grace wiped her face and looked at the screen one more time. No reply. No read receipts. Nothing. I just want to talk to him. That's all. If I could just talk to him. No, her mother cut in sharply. You had your chance to talk. You chose to lie instead. Now we're all going to pay the price. The beeping of the heart monitor filled the room again, uncomfortably loud in the silence that followed. Grace turned her face to the wall, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to lose him, but she had, and Connor wasn't coming back. Chapter 4. Begging for mercy. The hospital room was sterile and quiet, broken only by the steady rhythm of a heart monitor and the faint hiss of oxygen from a wall-mounted nozzle. Grace lay propped up on a thin white pillow, her skin pale and lips dry. The 4-line taped to her arm fed her fluids, while a nurse adjusted a chart and whispered something to the attending doctor before quietly slipping out. Grace barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on her phone, which she clutched in her trembling hand like a lifeline. The last text she sent to Connor sat unread. Grace, please. I'm in the hospital. The baby. I had a panic attack. I'm scared. Please, Connor. Please come. There was no typing bubble. No reply. Just silence. The door creaked open. Her mother walked in with a scowl and crossed arms, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Well, she said curtly, you look terrible. Grace barely managed a dry laugh. Thanks, Mom. That's what every pregnant woman wants to hear. Her mother ignored the sarcasm and approached the bed, stopping at the foot of it. The hospital called me because you put me down as your emergency contact. Your sister's not answering. Neither is Jasper. At the mention of her sister and brother-in-law, Grace turned her face away. I just want Connor to call back, she whispered. He won't even answer a text, not even to ask if I'm okay. Her mother's voice hardened. He read the messages, Grace. What do you expect? You lied. We all did. We went behind his back and used him like a wallet. Grace shut her eyes tight, wishing she could turn back time. It wasn't supposed to get this far. We just needed help. Jasper and Violet couldn't afford another surrogate. I didn't think, no, her mother snapped. You didn't think. You let your sister talk you into this nonsense. You could have said no. You could have told Connor. I was trying to protect him. Her mother scoffed. From what? The truth? You weren't protecting him. You were hiding the fact that you were carrying another man's child, his own brother-in-law's child, under his roof. Grace turned her head to the side, fighting tears. I thought he'd never find out. Well, now he has. And guess what? He's not being noble and quiet anymore. He's got lawyers. He's blocked everyone. And Jasper. Her mother paused, her face darkening. Jasper's not helping the situation. Grace blinked. What do you mean? Just then, the door burst open. Jasper stormed in, his designer jacket soaked from the rain outside, his face flushed with indignation. He barely glanced at Grace before rounding on her mother. Why the hell are you blaming me? You were the one who told Grace to keep Connor in the dark. Her mother stood straighter. Don't raise your voice to me. This was your idea, remember? You and Violet came begging for help. Grace was hesitant. Jasper scoffed. Hesitant? She jumped at the chance. She said Connor was too dull, too distant, that he wouldn't notice anyway. Grace looked up aghast. I never said that. Not like that. Jasper smirked. You sure sounded like it when you told Violet he was just the provider, that he'd never ask questions. Shut up, Jasper, Grace shouted, voice cracking. You're not helping. He raised an eyebrow, pulling out his phone with casual arrogance. I'm not helping. I'm trying to do damage control while you're crying in a hospital bed. Connor's overreacting. You should be thanking us. We kept this family together, financially, emotionally. This was about unity. Her mother's voice was sharp. Unity? You used your wife's sister as a womb and told her to lie to her husband. That's not unity. That's betrayal. Jasper didn't flinch. We did what was best for our family. In a small apartment across town, Connor sat with headphones on, his face stony, his hands steady as he hit record. He had hacked nothing. Jasper was careless, arrogant. He had sent a voice message in the same group chat, apparently forgetting that his words were already a liability. Let him be angry. He'll get over it. He's a man. He'll grieve, then move on. We did what was best for family. That's what matters. Connor hit save and added the file to a carefully labeled folder on his laptop. Evidence group chat recordings, then another file. Jasper, arrogant justification, wave his finger hovered over the spacebar. Then another message came through the mirrored app. Jasper, tell your husband to quit the drama. He wants sympathy? Boo-hoo. We did what was right for Violet and me. He's not a victim. He's a roadblock. Connor's lips curled into a humorless smile. He copied the message, saved it, time-stamped it, then forwarded it to his attorney with a short message. Subject: additional evidence, emotional malice. Attachment: Jasper arrogant justification. Wave. Useful for building the intent narrative. Malice, deception, and lack of remorse all clear. Let me know if we need more. Back in the hospital, Grace tried again. She picked up her phone and called Connor. Straight to voicemail. She tried from the hospital landline. Blocked. She sent a video message this time. face pale and eyes red. "Connor, please. I know I betrayed you. I know I hurt you. But I need you. I'm scared. This isn't what I wanted. I never wanted to lose you." She hit send and collapsed back in her pillow, sobbing. Her mother stood silent for a moment, then muttered, "You need to prepare yourself. He's gone." Grace looked at her helplessly. "But we've been married for 11 years. We built a life." "You built it on him," her mother replied coldly, then ripped the foundation out from under him. Meanwhile, Connor stared at the video message. He watched her cry, plead, break. Then he closed the app without replying. Without even blinking, he opened a new document, began outlining a timeline, adding transcripts, building the story, not for vengeance, for truth, for clarity. He didn't rage. He didn't scream. He documented. And as the night deepened, Grace wept in her hospital bed while her family tore itself apart in the waiting room. Chapter 5. Nuclear Winter. The courtroom was silent, tense, the kind of quiet that comes just before a bomb drops. Grace sat at the defendant's table, wringing a tissue in her shaking hands. Her once pristine suit now hung awkwardly on her thinner frame. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but her eyes were fixed on the man across the aisle. Connor sat calm, composed, his dark navy suit crisp, his posture straight. Cold, precise. His lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Denise Grant, flipped through her notes and leaned toward him with a slight nod. All set. He gave a single nod back. The judge entered, and everyone stood. As they sat again, the gavel dropped. Court is now in session. What followed was nothing short of a systematic, calculated destruction. Denise stood first. "Your Honor, we are presenting a motion for full divorce on the grounds of emotional and marital fraud, and irreparable betrayal involving deceit and premeditated concealment of a surrogacy arrangement. Without the informed consent of the petitioner, Mr. Connor Martinez." She turned and gestured toward Connor. Mr. Martinez was deliberately excluded from conversations regarding the use of his wife's body as a surrogate for her sister and brother-in-law, an act that involved months of calculated deception, as evidenced in the group chat titled, "Without Connor." On a screen behind her, the messages were projected one by one. Cold, cocky lines from Jasper, casual cruelty from Violet, and damning silence from Grace. Grace. "He's clueless. I just told him I was nauseous because of stress." Violet. "Perfect. Just keep him happy and out of it." Jasper. "Man's just there to pay bills and mow the lawn, right?" Grace. "Basically." The courtroom murmured as these texts flashed across the screen. Grace stared at her lap, unable to lift her eyes. Then came the video. A smug, grinning Jasper in a recorded chat message. "We did what was best for our family. Connor's being dramatic. He'll bounce back. Guys always do." The judge's brow furrowed deeply. Denise let the silence stretch before adding, "We are also submitting emotional distress claims and financial damage reports resulting from the deception, alongside the paternity test results." She handed a folder to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. Grace's attorney, a balding, nervous man, stood quickly. "Your Honor, while my client acknowledges certain errors in communication. Connor's voice cut in, sharp but controlled. The judge held up a hand. "Mr. Martinez, please, let your counsel speak for now." Denise shot a look at Connor, but he had already leaned back again, face unreadable. Grace's lawyer continued, fumbling. "There is no precedent for claiming emotional fraud due to voluntary surrogacy between consenting family members. The pregnancy is nearly full term. This situation, while deeply unfortunate, does not rise to the level of legal abuse." Connor's lawyer stood again. "And yet, financial abuse, emotional manipulation, withholding informed consent, all very real." Furthermore, she held up a document. "The paternity test shows Mr. Martinez is not the biological father of their youngest son, Matthew." A gasp came from somewhere in the audience. Grace finally looked up. "No," she whispered. That wasn't supposed to come out." Connor stared directly at her. Neither was the truth, apparently. Within days, word of the court proceedings leaked. Denise had filed the case publicly and strategically. Local press picked it up. So it hit blogs, forums, Wife becomes surrogate for sister's husband. Husband finds out through group chat. Man wins divorce and custody after discovering child isn't his. Without Connor. Viral chat thread sparks outrage over betrayal. Jasper was the first to feel the fallout. His job at the finance firm gone. HR called it a violation of internal ethics standards and conflict of personal morality and professional image. He tried to shrug it off publicly, but clients started pulling accounts. His LinkedIn inbox dried up. Then came the death blow. One of Connor's screenshots revealed a message Jasper had sent boasting about how to fake surrogate expenses to claim tax benefits. That made it to a Watchdog blog. By the end of the week, Jasper's career was radioactive. Violet, Grace's sister, received anonymous hate mail, calls, even a brick through the window of her clinic with the words "Sister Betrayer" painted in red. Her patience dwindled. Local moms groups blacklisted her. She cried in her car outside work one afternoon, unable to face walking inside. Grace's world collapsed slower. Her school placed her on unpaid leave pending professional review. Old friends ghosted her. She reached out in desperation, texts to former coworkers, long voice notes to college friends. Most were left on read. A few blocked her. Even her OB/GYN quietly transferred her file to another provider. She stood alone in the kitchen one day, no car, no job, no husband, no sister, no income, and stared at the photo on the fridge. Their last family vacation. Connor was smiling, holding Matthew. Her daughters had ice cream all over their faces. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor. The final nail came on a Monday morning. Court ruling. The judge's voice was final and unwavering. Given the severity of the deception, emotional trauma inflicted, and financial manipulations involved, the court grants full divorce to the petitioner, Mr. Connor Martinez. He paused. Full custody of his biological daughter is awarded to Mr. Martinez. Custody of the other minor child, Matthew, is denied to Mrs. Martinez pending future paternity clarification. Grace collapsed in sobs right there in the courtroom. She was left with nothing. No spousal support. No rights to the house. No car. No job. And most damningly of all, no children. Connor walked out the front doors of the courthouse slowly, the sun reflecting off the metal railing as reporters hovered nearby. He said nothing. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than any speech. Inside, Grace sat slumped on a bench, staring blankly at the floor, her mother trying in vain to comfort her. Jasper texted her that afternoon. "Jasper, we need to talk damage control. This is getting out of hand." Grace, go to hell. Chapter 6. A Light Through the Ashes. The morning sun spilled through Connor's apartment window like a quiet invitation. The air inside still carried the faint scent of coffee and pine wood cleaner, his new Sunday routine. He had moved in the modest two-bedroom unit 6 months ago, after the storm had finally settled. The divorce, the revelations, the betrayal. He stood in his small kitchen, a mug of black coffee warming his hands, staring out at the park across the street. Children played under budding trees, their laughter distant but somehow comforting. He watched for a moment before turning away, his gaze falling on the framed photo near the sink. His daughter, Ava, 7 years old and beaming, sat on his shoulders in the picture, both of them wearing matching Team Martinez shirts from a charity run 2 weeks ago. She was his anchor now, his only thread of light during those dark months. His therapist had once told him healing wasn't a straight road, but more like a trail scattered with broken glass. Some days you walk barefoot. Other days you wore steel boots. Today felt somewhere in between. A soft ping from his phone broke the quiet. "Clara, hey, no pressure. Just wondering if you're still okay for lunch at the cafe today? I can reschedule if you need time." Connor read it twice. He didn't answer immediately. He took another sip of his coffee, rubbed the back of his neck, and sighed. Clara was different. He'd met her unexpectedly at the hospital a few months back. His father had passed away after a long battle with pulmonary fibrosis. Clara had been the nurse who checked on him every evening. She never rushed. She never used that false cheerfulness nurses sometimes use to mask pain. She was just, real. And after the funeral, she'd come up to Connor with no platitudes, no awkward cliches, just a quiet, "I'm sorry you had to carry so much. You shouldn't have had to." It stuck with him more than the condolences from family and friends. They met again at the pharmacy, then again at a bookstore, and slowly, conversation flowed. She wasn't trying to rescue him, and she never asked about the tabloids or the headlines that had come and gone like wildfire. He typed back, "Connor, I'm still on. See you there." The cafe was nestled between a florist and a secondhand bookshop, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and hand-drawn chalkboard menus. Clara was already there when he arrived, seated at a corner table with 2 mugs of tea and a slice of lemon cake between them. She looked up and smiled, not the kind of smile that demanded anything from him, just warm, simple acknowledgement. "You made it," she said, patting the seat across from her. "I did," Connor replied, shrugging out of his jacket. Traffic was light. They chatted about neutral things first. Ava's recent school project, Clara's late shift at the hospital, a funny elderly patient who insisted on calling every nurse captain. It was easy, almost disarmingly so. "So," Clara said after a pause, "how have the dreams been?" Connor hesitated. She always knew where the soft wounds were. Not to press them, but to acknowledge them. "Still there," he admitted. "Not as sharp, but still there. Same ones." He nodded. "I wake up angry, then I feel guilty for not being numb anymore." Clara tilted her head. "You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel anything. Betrayal's a deep wound. The fact that you're still feeling means you haven't shut down. That's strength, Connor, not weakness." He looked at her then, really looked. No judgment in her face. Just patience. Steadiness. "You're good at this," he said softly. "At what?" she asked. "Not making me feel broken." She smiled, this time a little sadder. "That's because I know what it's like to be broken and still be expected to function." He raised an eyebrow. Clara leaned back in her seat, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "My ex-husband. He didn't cheat. Not in a classic way. But he was never there. Not emotionally. I spent years feeling invisible. Like I was the furniture. Quiet, useful, replaceable." Connor's jaw tightened. "I get that. I really do." They sat in silence for a while, the sounds of clinking cups and low chatter around them. It wasn't awkward. It was comfortable, like 2 people resting beside each other after a long climb. "I still don't know if I'm ready," Connor admitted. "For anything. Relationship. Trust. Letting someone in again." Clara didn't flinch. "I'm not asking you to be. I'm not here with a timeline. I like spending time with you. That's enough for me." He exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing just a little. "Thank you." They shared the cake, talking about favorite childhood books and the worst songs ever played at weddings. Connor laughed, really laughed for the first time in weeks. As they stood to leave, Clara hesitated. "I'm glad you came today." "Me too," he said. They walked side by side down the sidewalk, not touching, not rushing, just walking. Before parting ways, Clara turned to him. "Hey, Connor." "Yeah. I'm not here to fix you. I just like the way you carry your broken pieces. You're honest about them. That's rare." Connor swallowed, something thick rising in his throat. "I'm trying to be," he said. "I don't want to fake anything anymore." Clara smiled gently. "Then you're already miles ahead of most." He watched her walk away, the wind tugging at the hem of her coat. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like the sky was pressing down on him. It wasn't joy, not yet, but it was peace, a flicker of something softer, a light, faint but steady, through the ashes. Chapter 7. Suffering in Silence. The house Grace once called a home was now a collection of creaking floors, stale air, and suffocating reminders. Her parents' living room smelled of lavender spray and damp carpets, overused in a poor attempt to mask the mildew from a leaky pipe that had never quite been fixed. The same brown couch from her childhood sat beneath the window, sun-faded and sinking in the middle like a tired spine. She'd sprawled across it for hours as a teenager, arguing with her mother, flirting on the phone, dreaming of a life far more glamorous than the one she was now painfully enduring. Now she sat there again, but older, heavier with regret, her body aching from sleepless nights and cries stifled into pillows. The baby, Noah, cooed from the bassinet beside her, clutching his tiny fists as he kicked against the blankets. He had her eyes, but his nose and brow were unmistakably Rob's, her sister's husband. The man who had whispered promises into her ear and then vanished the moment consequences surfaced. Grace ran a trembling hand through her unwashed hair. The TV murmured in the background, some talk show arguing over loyalty and betrayal. Ironic, cruel timing. Her mother, Ellen, walked into the room, arms crossed, lips tight. She didn't speak. She rarely did these days, unless it was to mutter a reminder about rent or dishes or Noah's formula. You could at least pretend to be happy he's alive, Grace mumbled, rocking the bassinet gently. Ellen shot her a glance. He is alive because you lied. Because you broke a marriage. Don't you dare ask me to pretend this is normal. Grace closed her eyes. The same argument. Over and over. I did what I thought was right for the family. Ellen scoffed. No, you did what was selfish. You let your sister manipulate you, and now you're both miserable. You think Connor deserved this. At his name, Grace flinched. Her heart throbbed like a bruise pressed too hard. I didn't mean to hurt him, she whispered. I just didn't think he'd ever find out. Ellen said nothing. She simply walked back into the kitchen, leaving Grace alone with the quiet gurgles of a child born from betrayal. Rob, her former brother-in-law, the man she had risked everything for, had ghosted her in the truest, coldest way. At first, after Connor's disappearance, Rob had played the hero. He checked in, brought groceries, rubbed her feet while she complained about morning sickness. He whispered that it would all be fine, that they'd raised the baby with unified love, that what they'd done had a higher purpose. 2 weeks after Noah was born, he stopped responding to messages. A week later, she caught wind from her sister that he was reconnecting with someone from college. And last month, she hadn't dared tell her parents. Grace had seen photos on social media of Rob and some blonde woman having dinner at the same wine bar he used to take her to during those secretive, breathless nights. She stared at her phone now, eyes tired and red-rimmed, scrolling through her outbox. Unanswered messages. Rob, please. We had something real. You said we'd do this together. Don't abandon me like this. But the worst were the messages to Connor. Those weren't messages. They were letters. Long, handwritten confessions she would take hours crafting, on paper at first, before switching to email when she couldn't bear to wait on stamps. In the beginning, they were desperate. To Connor, I know I don't deserve a response. I know I destroyed us. But please, please hear me. I was scared. I felt like I was drowning in obligations, and your brother and my mother, they made it sound like I was doing something noble. You always worked so hard, Connor. I thought if I kept this secret, I could spare you the stress. I told myself I was protecting you. But I see now I was protecting myself. You were the best thing in my life. And I broke you. Please, if there's even a sliver of space left in your heart for me, I would do anything to fix this. Weeks passed. No reply. Then the letters grew longer. More frantic. She wrote about the baby. About how Noah giggled when he saw his reflection. About how Connor would have been a better father than Rob ever could be. She apologized 100 ways. She confessed everything, even things he probably already knew. She cried as she typed, hard in her throat, as if bleeding through the keyboard would somehow bring him back. To Connor, there isn't a night I don't dream of the way you used to look at me when I brought you coffee in the morning, of how you held my hand when I was nervous. You deserved better, and I see that now in every diaper I change, in every night I wake up alone, knowing I burned down a future that could have been beautiful. I miss you. Connor never responded. Not once. But she knew he read them. There were read receipts, blue ticks, tiny signs that he saw her words, even if he didn't let them in. That hurt more than silence. Noah started to cry again. Grace picked him up, his small body warm against hers. It's okay, baby, she whispered, though her voice cracked. I've got you. She rocked him gently, pacing across the living room. Her mother walked by again, this time holding laundry. You should get some rest, Ellen muttered. You look like hell. Grace didn't reply. She just kissed the crown of Noah's head. In the dim light of the hallway, she caught her reflection in the mirror, dark circles, pale skin, messy hair. She didn't recognize herself. This wasn't the woman Connor had married. This wasn't the woman Rob had whispered fantasies to in secret. This was a woman left behind, used, abandoned, alone, and every breath she took was filled with the weight of what she had done. She went to her room after Noah finally drifted off. She sat at her desk, opened a blank document, and stared. No words came this time, not because she had nothing left to say, but because she knew he had already stopped listening. Chapter 8. Closure. The courtroom smelled faintly of lemon polish and old wood, somehow both sterile and suffocating. Connor stood near the far bench, his shoulders squared beneath a crisp charcoal suit, his tie knotted with methodical care. He hadn't worn in years, but today warranted armor. Not for battle, but for goodbye. The echo of heels tapped across the marble floor, sharp and hesitant. He didn't need to look up to know it was her. He recognized that rhythm, once confident, now uneven. Grace entered slowly, flanked by her lawyer. She looked thinner, her cheeks hollow, her hair pulled back with trembling hands. She was wearing a pale blouse and a faded gray skirt that hung too loose on her frame. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on him. A flicker of something passed through them, shock, sorrow, maybe shame. Their eyes met. It was the first time in nearly a year. The last time had been through a hospital room window. She'd been crying, clutching her stomach, calling his name as security held him back after he dropped the legal papers. Now, there was no glass between them, just space and silence. The bailiff called out the case number. A few procedural motions followed, property finalizations, visitation acknowledgments, and a confirmation of finalized divorce records. The judge's voice droned in the background, but for Connor, it all faded behind the thrum of his heartbeat. The legalities didn't matter anymore. This moment did. As the judge dismissed them with a nod and a sharp rap of his gavel, Connor gathered his folder. His lawyer offered him a nod, professional, brief, and stepped away. That's when he felt it, a presence behind him. He turned. Grace stood there, wringing her hands, eyes wide and glistening. The courtroom slowly emptied, leaving them in the heavy quiet of the aftermath. "Connor," she said softly. Her voice cracked, the syllables brittle. He said nothing, just looked at her. "Calm. Still. Please," she whispered, stepping closer. Just 5 minutes. Please." He didn't nod, didn't speak, but he didn't walk away either. So she took that as permission. "I know I don't deserve to speak to you. I know that." She began, her voice shaking as tears welled in her eyes. "But I need to say it, even if you don't care, even if it changes nothing." She took a breath, chest heaving. "I ruined everything. I ruined you. I thought I was making a sacrifice for family, for my sister. But I was lying to myself. It wasn't noble. It was selfish. It was cowardly. I didn't want to lose control of what I thought I had." Connor's gaze remained steady. No anger, no contempt, just silence. "I told myself you were strong enough to handle it, that you didn't need to know, that it wouldn't hurt you if you never found out. But I see now I broke something sacred. I shattered your trust. I used your love like a shield to hide behind." She was crying now, voice choking as she stepped even closer, her shoulders trembling. "You were good to me, Connor. Too good. And I repaid it with lies and betrayal and humiliation." She dropped to her knees then, right there on the cold, polished courtroom floor. The sound of it, her body crumpling, knees hitting tile, cut through the room. "I'm begging you," she sobbed, her voice small. "Please, tell me there's still a piece of you that remembers what we had. Tell me this isn't the end. I'll do anything. Just, please don't walk away from me." She looked up at him, broken and bare, her tears trailing down her face, dripping onto her hands. "I don't want to live the rest of my life knowing I destroyed the only man who ever truly loved me." For a long moment, Connor didn't move. He studied her, not the woman he had married, but the woman who had risen from the wreckage. And then, finally, he stepped forward. He crouched slowly, level with her. His voice, when it came, was calm, clear, unshaking. "I forgive you." Grace gasped, tears streaming faster. She reached toward him, almost as if expecting his touch. But Connor didn't move. "I forgive you," he said again, "because I need peace. Not revenge, not hatred, not any more weight dragging me down." Her lips quivered. "Then come back. We can try again. We can rebuild." "No," he said, cutting through her plea. That man you broke, he's gone. She stared at him, unable to breathe. I buried him, alongside the dreams, the trust, the life we planned. What's left now is someone different. Someone who had to claw his way out of the grave you helped dig. He stood. Grace reached up from her knees, clutching the edge of his coat. Please, he gently pulled away. Not violently, not cruelly, just, finally. I hope you find healing, Grace. I do, he said, but it won't be with me. And with that, Connor turned. His footsteps echoed as he walked away, each one steady, composed. The sunlight outside the courthouse doors hit his face as they swung open. For the first time in months, he felt light, free. Behind him, Grace wept alone on the floor, the sound muffled by distance, by glass doors, by time. But Connor didn't look back. He didn't need to. Closure wasn't her apology. It was his peace. Chapter 9. A New Dawn. The soft rustle of unpacked boxes filled the quiet morning air, a domestic symphony of cardboard flaps and bubble wrap. Sunlight filtered through linen curtains, casting long streaks of gold across the living room floor. A kettle whistled in the kitchen, gently reminding Connor that this was real. This home, this life. He stood barefoot near the window, coffee in hand, wearing an old gray hoodie and flannel pants. His beard had grown a little since the last court hearing, neatly trimmed but fuller than he used to keep it. Clara teased him that it made him look like a brooding lumberjack, to which he'd responded, deadpan, "It's for intimidation purposes." The truth was, he liked the person he saw in the mirror now. Not flawless, not whole, but honest, battle-scarred and healing. Behind him, Clara padded into the room, still wearing her navy blue sleep shirt and mismatched socks. Her hair was a halo of gentle chaos, pulled into a lazy bun, and she carried 2 mugs, one for him, one for herself. "You started without me," she said with mock offense. Connor smiled faintly. "I was taste testing the air. Yours has notes of nutmeg." She arched an eyebrow. "I didn't put nutmeg in yours." He sipped again, then shrugged. "Must be emotional residue." Clara laughed, setting her mug down and curling into the armchair opposite him. "You're weird," she said warmly. He looked at her, really looked at her. There was something about Clara that brought ease to a room. Not in the flashy way Grace once had, all perfume and performance, but in a grounding, still water kind of way. With Clara, silence wasn't heavy. It was comfort. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked. "I did," he said, nodding. "First time in a while I didn't dream about the past." Clara tilted her head, her expression open, but not probing. She never demanded explanations from him. She listened if he wanted to talk, but she never pushed. Connor appreciated that more than she knew. He took another sip, watching the sky outside begin to shift from indigo to pale amber. "You know, this house, it's not just walls and a roof. It feels like a reset, like I finally stepped off a train I didn't realize I've been riding for years." Clara wrapped her arms around her knees. "You deserve peace, Connor. Not just absence of chaos, but actual peace." He nodded slowly. "There was a time I thought peace would only come after revenge, after seeing them suffer. But it didn't help. It didn't undo the betrayal. It didn't fix me. And now?" she asked gently. "Now." He glanced toward the kitchen, where boxes labeled plates, mugs, and junk drawer were scattered across the counters. He smiled faintly. "Now peace looks like mismatched furniture and late-night soup, and a woman who doesn't need to fix me, just walks beside me." Clara's eyes softened. She got up slowly and walked to him. Without a word, she slid her fingers between his and stood beside him at the window. They watched the sky bloom. Peach and coral streaked the horizon, washing the world in soft, forgiving light. "I used to think healing meant forgetting," Connor said, voice low. "That if I remembered, it meant I hadn't moved on. But the memories don't haunt me anymore. They just exist." "You don't have to erase your past to start over," Clara said. "You just have to stop letting it define your present." He looked at her then, really looked. Her eyes were tired but kind. Her face bore the quiet strength of someone who'd seen people at their worst and still believed in the good. There was no pity in her gaze, just understanding. "Acceptance. I want you to know," he began, gripping her hand a little tighter. "It's not some rebound. It's not me trying to prove anything to anyone. I know, she said. I don't expect you to fix what was broken. I don't want to, she replied softly. I just want to build something new with you, brick by brick, whatever it looks like. His throat tightened, but not with grief. With something else. Gratitude, maybe, or the fragile hope that love, real love, could survive the wreckage of betrayal. I love you, Clara, he said. She smiled, eyes glistening. I know, and I love you too. The moment didn't feel grandiose or cinematic. It wasn't fireworks or sweeping music. It was soft, earned, quietly monumental. They stood there, hands intertwined, watching the sun crest the horizon. The world outside was waking up, casting long golden light across their little living room. Light that touched everything, the boxes, the mess, the coffee rings on the table. Imperfect but real. Clara leaned her head against his shoulder. We should unpack the rest of the kitchen today. Yeah, Connor said. We should. A beat passed. Or he added, we could go for a walk. Find that bakery you mentioned. Clara grinned. The one with the obscenely large cinnamon rolls. That's the one. I'm in. But only if you promise not to mock my sugar-induced coma afterward. No promises, he said, kissing her temple. As they turned away from the window, preparing for a day of cinnamon rolls and unpacked memories, Connor felt something deep in his chest loosen. Not a sudden epiphany. Not some dramatic catharsis. Just space. Space for something new. Something honest. Something earned. He hadn't won. He had survived. And sometimes, survival was the greatest triumph of all.